Your mother disappeared! Who's going to pay the bill? Louise's piercing shout ripped across the entire restaurant. Every single diner turned to stare at our table. It was her birthday, her big party, her celebration with 20 guests she'd personally selected. And I had just stood up, taken my purse, and started walking toward the restroom. Except I wasn't going to the restroom. I was heading straight for the exit, where a taxi was waiting for me. I left the chaos behind, the raised voices, the confusion, the check for $450 unpaid, and my son Jamal desperately searching for me between the tables while Shanice screamed that I had ruined her perfect night. But that was only the beginning of everything. When Jamal flicked on the living room light at 2 o'clock in the morning, the cry that tore from his throat was one of pure desperation. Because I was right there, sitting in my favorite armchair, completely calm, with 3 packed suitcases beside me and a folder of documents on the coffee table, waiting for them. I knew they would come. I knew that after abandoning them at that upscale bistro with all their friends as witnesses to their shame, they would come furious, demanding an explanation. Maybe they thought they could force me to return, to fix the mess, to pull out my credit card, as I always did. But that night, I was no longer the same woman they had been walking over for years. That night, Elara Jenkins, at 68 years old, had stopped being the convenient mother. I had become someone entirely different, someone who had finally found the courage to say, enough is enough. However, to understand how I reached that point, I need to tell you everything from the start. I need you to grasp that this wasn't a sudden whim or a bout of insanity, as Jamal yelled to the restaurant manager. It was the result of months, perhaps years, of swallowing my pride, of pretending it didn't hurt, of convincing myself that a mother's love means sacrificing everything, even my own dignity. It all started about 2 years ago. Jamal called me one Sunday afternoon with that special tone in his voice, the one he used when he needed something. I knew that tone well. I'd heard it hundreds of times since he was a teenager, but now Jamal was 35, with a stable job as a sales manager and a wife who made good money as a graphic designer. "Mama, I need to ask you an enormous favor. It's kind of urgent." My heart immediately raced. I thought of accidents, illnesses, serious trouble. A mother always imagines the worst first. "What happened, son? Are you okay? Is Shanice okay?" Yeah, everyone's fine. It's just, well, we had an unexpected expense with Shanice's car, and this month we're a little tight. Could you lend us $500? We'll pay you back next month, promise." $500. My Social Security was $800 a month. I lived paycheck to paycheck, but he was my son, my only son. How could I refuse him? "Of course, Jamal. I'll transfer it tomorrow. I'll wire it to you. You're the best mama in the world. I promise we'll pay you back soon." He never did. The following month, it was the air conditioning repair, $300. Then Shanice's birthday, $200 to help with the celebration. Next, an expensive gift they wanted to give an important business partner of Jamal's. Then their wedding anniversary. Then new furniture for the living room because the old pieces didn't match the decor anymore. In 6 months, I had loaned them over $3,000. And every time I timidly mentioned the possibility of them starting to pay some of it back, Jamal would look at me with disappointment. "Mama, I thought you did it because you love us, not because you expected something in return. I didn't know you were keeping score." Those words made me feel awful, like I was the villain, the petty, selfish mother who put a price tag on love. So I stopped mentioning the money, and they stopped pretending they would ever pay it back. The visits changed too. Before, Jamal would come over on Sundays for coffee to talk, to ask me how I was doing. Now, he only showed up when he needed something, and Shanice almost never came. When she did, she'd stay glued to her phone, answering in monosyllables if I tried to start a conversation. One day, they showed up without calling. It was a Friday evening, and I was preparing my simple dinner, a chicken broth with vegetables. I heard the key in the lock. Jamal had always had a copy of my keys for emergencies. "Hey, Mama, we brought Chinese food. Are you hungry?" Shanice walked in behind him, carrying several bags. For a moment, I felt joy. They had thought of me. They wanted to share dinner with me. "That's so sweet, son. I was just cooking, but don't worry about it. Save your food for tomorrow." "Nah, we're starving." They settled down at my table as if they were in their own home. They took out the food containers and served themselves onto my plates. I sat with them, smiling, trying to start a conversation. "How was work this week?" "Fine, Mama, fine. Shanice, pass me the soy sauce." "Jamal, did you remember the wine we left here last time?" "Sure did. It's in Mama's fridge. Mama, can you get it for us?" I got up to fetch the wine. It was an expensive bottle they had left weeks ago. I poured 2 glasses for them. They didn't offer me any. They ate quickly, talking to each other about things I didn't understand, names of people I didn't know, places they had been to where I hadn't been invited. I felt like a ghost in my own house. When they finished, Jamal leaned back in his chair with a satisfied sigh. "Mama, I need to talk to you about something important." There it was again. The tone, the request disguised as conversation. "Shanice and I are thinking of taking a trip for our anniversary. Something special, you know. 3 years married. We found an incredible all-inclusive package to the Bahamas. The problem is, it's this month, and with all the expenses we've had—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I knew exactly what was coming. "How much do you need?" $2,000. "I know it's a lot, Mama, but it's our anniversary. You only get married once." $2,000. Almost 3 months of my pension. "Jamal, I don't have that much available right now." For the first time all night, Shanice looked up from her phone and stared right at me. There was something cold in her eyes. "You don't have savings?" "I have some saved, but it's for emergencies, And what's more important than your own son's happiness, Alara? Jamal works so hard. He deserves a vacation. We'd do the same for our parents if we had the means." The way she said my name, not Mom or Mrs. Jenkins, just Alara. As if we were friends, or worse, as if she had some kind of authority over me. "Let me see what I can do." "Thanks, Mama. We knew we could count on you." They left half an hour later, taking the rest of the wine and leaving the dirty dishes on the table. I stayed sitting there, staring at the remnants of the dinner they had brought, which I hadn't ordered, which they had devoured, and for which now, in some twisted way, I had to pay with my savings. That night, I cried for the first time in months. Not exactly from sadness. It was something worse. It was the feeling of having become invisible, of existing only as a means to obtain something. But I wasn't ready to admit it yet. I still convinced myself that this was how modern families were, that adult children needed support, that I was being dramatic. I transferred the $2,000 2 days later. The trip to the Bahamas lasted 1 week. During those 7 days, Jamal sent me exactly 3 texts. The first was a photo of them at the airport with a, "We've taken off, Mama." The second was an image of the beach with, "This is amazing." The third arrived on the last day. "Coming back tomorrow. Love you." 3 messages in 7 days, paid for with 2 years of my savings. They didn't call me once, not even to ask how I was, if I had eaten, if I needed anything. I, who had to go to the doctor that week because my blood pressure shot up suddenly and I spent 2 days feeling so dizzy I could barely get out of bed. Alone. Completely alone. My neighbor, Brenda Taylor, was the one who drove me to the clinic. She barely knew me. She owed me nothing. "Alara, your son can't come with you. He's away with his wife." "I don't want to worry him." Brenda looked at me with something that looked like pity. She didn't say anything else, but her silence spoke louder than any words. When Jamal and Shanice returned, 2 weeks passed before they came to visit me. They arrived one Saturday afternoon, tanned, relaxed, full of energy. They brought their suitcases. "Mama, we're staying for the weekend. They're fumigating our building, and the smell is unbearable. Right? No problem?" It wasn't a question. They were already walking in, dropping their things in my guest room, which I used as a sewing room. "Sure, son. My house is your house. Shanice walked past me without even saying hello. She went straight to the bathroom with her makeup bag. I heard her turn on the shower faucet. "Mama, do you have anything to eat? We're starving." Jamal flopped onto the sofa and turned on the television. "I have ingredients to make something. What are you in the mood for?" "I don't know. Anything. Something good. At the hotel, the food was incredible every day. I miss that food." Something inside me twisted. I had paid for that hotel, that incredible food, that luxury vacation, and now they arrived at my house expecting me to keep serving them as if nothing had happened. But I didn't say anything. I never said anything. I prepared chicken pasta. I used the last good ingredients I had in the refrigerator. I set the table nicely with cloth napkins and everything. I wanted them to feel welcome. I wanted them to remember that their mama could cook well too, that I could make good things, that I was worth more than just the money I could lend them. When I called them for dinner, it took them 10 minutes to come. They were watching something on the phone, laughing together. They sat down and started eating without saying a word. Not a thank you, not a this looks good. Nothing. "So, how was the trip? Did you have a good time?" "Amazing, Mama. The hotel was 5-star, private beach, top-notch everything. Shanice got to relax a ton, right, babe?" "Yes, exactly what I needed. The spa was spectacular. I got massages every day." I felt a knot in my stomach. Massages every day with my money, while I was alone, dizzy, dragging myself to the doctor. "And how are you, Mama?" Jamal asked the question without looking up from his plate. Like something automatic, like when you ask how someone is without really wanting to know the answer. "Fine. I had to go to the doctor because my blood pressure went up, but I'm better now." "Oh, that's good you're better. Mama, this pasta is a little dry. Don't you have more sauce?" I swallowed. I had just told him I had been sick, and his only response was to ask for more sauce. Shanice put her fork down on the plate with a sigh. "I can't eat anymore. I'm so full. Ilara, do you have dessert?" "No, Shanice, I don't have dessert." What a shame. At the hotel, they had an incredible dessert buffet. You could have as much as you wanted. She got up from the table, leaving half the food on her plate. Jamal followed her shortly after. Both settled into the living room to watch a movie, leaving me alone with the dirty dishes and the wasted food. I washed everything in silence. I put away the leftovers, cleaned the kitchen. From the living room, I heard their laughter. They were watching a comedy together, happy. That night, I slept poorly. I heard them moving in the next room. I heard their quiet conversations. At one point, Shanice's voice rose slightly. "No, Jamal, we've already asked her for too much this year. Give her some time." "Well, what do you want me to do? She's my mama. That's what mothers are for." "Yeah, but we need to be more strategic. We can't ask her every month. She's going to catch on. She's going to catch on." Those words hit me like a punch, as if there was a plan, as if I were a resource to be managed. I stayed awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, feeling something inside me begin to break. On Sunday morning, I prepared breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, fresh orange juice squeezed by hand. I set the table again with care. Jamal came down first, yawning, his hair messed up. "Morning, Mama. Smells good." Shanice appeared 20 minutes later, perfectly put together, with straightened hair and full makeup, as if for a photo shoot. "Is there coffee?" "Yes, I just made it." She poured a cup and sat down, looking at her phone. She didn't even try the food I had prepared. "Ilara, this coffee is instant." "Yes, it's what I always drink." "Oh, I only drink whole bean coffee. Instant makes my stomach hurt. Don't you have another kind?" "No, Shanice, this is it." She sighed dramatically and pushed the cup away. Jamal ate quickly without speaking. When he finished, he wiped his mouth and looked at me with that expression I knew so well. "Mama, can I talk to you for a moment?" "Sure, son." Shanice immediately stood up. "I'm going to pack our bags." We were left alone. Jamal played with a napkin in his hands, without looking directly at me. "Mama, I know we've already asked you for a lot this year, and believe me, we appreciate it so much, but something came up, and we need your help one more time." My heart started beating faster. A feeling of dread tightened my chest. What happened? Nothing bad, relax. It's just that, well, we saw an amazing apartment. It's perfect for us, bigger, in a better neighborhood with a gym and a pool. The problem is they're asking for 2 months' deposit, and we only have enough for one. We'd need $2,000 more. Jamal, I don't have any more savings. I gave you everything I had for the trip. I know, but don't you have a credit card, or could you take an advance on your Social Security? I can't do that. I'm already tight with what I have every month. For the first time, Jamal looked me straight in the eye. There was some frustration in his gaze. Mama, I just don't get it. You live alone. You don't have big expenses. What do you spend your money on? On food, Jamal? On medicine? On utilities? On keeping up this house where you two come and stay whenever you want? Okay, don't get upset. I was just asking. I thought that as a family we could help each other. I have helped you many times. Yes, and we appreciate it, but this is different. It's an investment in our future. At some point you're going to get older, and you might need us to take care of you. This is like making sure we have a comfortable place where we can all be. All. The word sounded hollow because I wasn't included in that all. It was just an excuse, an elegant way to make me feel guilty. Let me think about it. How long do you need? Because the apartment won't last long on the market. A few days, Jamal sighed, clearly annoyed. Fine, but try to decide fast. Yes. He got up and went to find Shanice. 10 minutes later, they were at the door with their bags. Thanks for everything, Mama. We'll call you this week. A quick kiss on the cheek, not even a hug, and they were gone. I stood at the door watching their car drive away. The house fell silent, a heavy, painful silence that made me feel more alone than ever. I went into the room where they had slept. Towels were thrown on the floor. The bed was unmade. They had used my expensive shampoo, the one I saved for special occasions. The bottle was nearly empty. In the bathroom, I found the tube of toothpaste squeezed from the middle, the cap left open. Shanice's hair's in the sink, makeup stains on my white towel. I cleaned everything like an automaton, changed the sheets, tidied up, erased every trace that they had been there. But I couldn't erase what I had overheard the night before. We need to be more strategic. As if I were a problem to solve, an obstacle to manage. That night, sitting in my empty living room with the television off and only the sound of the clock ticking the seconds, something shifted inside me. It was small still, just a whisper, but it was there. The doubt, the uncomfortable question I had been avoiding for months. When did I become this? Someone who only matters for what she can give. The following days were strange. Jamal called me 3 times that week, 3 times in 7 days, more than he had called me in the last 2 months combined. But I knew it wasn't because he was worried about my health or because he missed me. It was because he needed an answer about the money for the apartment. Mama, have you thought about it yet? I need to know because the owner is pressuring us. Jamal, I really can't. I have nowhere to get that amount. But did you try taking out a loan? There are options. Mama, I'll help you look for a loan. He wanted me, a 68-year-old woman with an $800 a month pension, to take out a loan to finance their luxury apartment. I'm not going into debt, son. The silence on the other end of the line was long, uncomfortable. All right, I understand. I guess we'll have to look for another option. He hung up without saying goodbye, without saying I love you, without asking how I was. He just hung up. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing from him. Nothing. Not a call, not a text. It was as if I had ceased to exist the moment I stopped being useful to them. I spent my time looking at the phone, waiting. Every time it rang, my heart jumped, thinking it would be Jamal. But it was only telemarketing calls or bank messages. The loneliness began to weigh on me in a different way. It wasn't just being physically alone. It was feeling like I mattered to no one. One afternoon, Brenda invited me to coffee at her place. I almost never accepted invitations because I always thought Jamal might show up or call. But that day, after 2 weeks of silence, I accepted. Her house smelled like cinnamon and fresh coffee. She had photos everywhere of her kids, her grandkids, her trips, all smiling. It looked like a real family. "How long since you last saw your son, Alara?" "2 weeks. He's busy with work and all that." Brenda nodded as she poured the coffee. She didn't say anything, but I noticed her lips pressed together slightly. "My kids come every Sunday, sometimes during the week too. They call me every day, even if it's for 5 minutes. I know I'm lucky." I felt a pang of envy, of pain, of shame, too. Jamal is very hardworking. He has a lot of responsibilities. Of course, but a phone call doesn't take that long, does it? I took a sip of coffee so I wouldn't have to answer. Brenda noticed. "Alara, forgive me for getting involved where I don't belong, but I've watched you these past few months and you worry me. Always waiting, always available, and he only shows up when he needs something. It's not like that, is it?" "When was the last time he came over just to visit you? Without asking for money, without staying over because he had a problem, without needing something, just to be with you?" I couldn't answer because I simply couldn't remember the last time. Kids have their lives. It's normal. Yes, they have their lives, but good people don't forget where they come from. They don't use their parents like ATM machines. "Brenda, he doesn't use me. He's my son. I help him because I want to." "All right, I'm sorry. I don't want to fight with you. I just want you to know that you are worth much more than he makes you feel." I returned home with her words echoing in my head. You are worth much more than he makes you feel. Was it true? Or was she just a nosy neighbor who didn't understand the relationship between a mother and son? That night, Jamal finally called. "Mama, how are you?" "Fine, son. And you?" "Good, good. Hey, we got the apartment. My boss ended up loaning us the money we were short. We're moving next weekend." "That's good, son. I'm happy for you both." "Yeah, we're super excited. Hey, could you help us with the move? We need someone to be at the old apartment to receive the moving company while we're at the new place organizing. Can you do Saturday?" "Sure, I'll be there." "Perfect. I'll text you the address. You have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. The movers are punctual." "And you guys will be there, right?" "I told you, we have to be at the new apartment. That's why we need you to be at the old one." "All right, Bet. Thanks, Mama. You're the best." He hung up. He didn't even ask if I could get there at that time, or if I had a way to get transportation. He just assumed I would be available, as always. On Saturday, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I took 2 buses to get to their old apartment. It was cold, and my knees ached from the dampness. I arrived at 7:50. The movers showed up right at 8. They were 3 big men who started loading boxes and furniture without saying much to me. I stayed there, supervising as Jamal had asked, making sure they didn't forget anything. By 11 o'clock in the morning, the apartment was empty. I stood in the middle of the unfurnished living room, looking at the marks on the floor where the sofas had been, the lighter squares on the walls where they had hung pictures. I sent a text to Jamal. "The move is over. Everything is clear." It took him 2 hours to reply. "Okay, thanks. Leave the keys with the doorman." That was it. Not "how did it go?" Not "do you want to come see the new place?" Not "do you have a way to get home?" Nothing. I left the keys with the doorman and left. I took the 2 buses back. I arrived home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, exhausted, with swollen knees and a terrible headache. I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my sofa. I looked at my phone. No more messages, no calls. It was at that moment, in the absolute silence of my empty house, that something inside me finally snapped. It wasn't dramatic. There were no tears, just a cold clarity that struck me like lightning. I wasn't their mother. I was their employee, their personal bank, their emergency resource. But I wasn't their mother, because mothers deserve love, and what I was receiving wasn't love. 2 weeks later, I received an invitation by text. It wasn't exactly an invitation. It was more of an announcement. "Mama, Shanice's birthday is October 15. We're celebrating at the Red Velvet Bistro at 8 p.m. Confirm if you can come." The Red Velvet Bistro, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, the kind of place where dinner could easily cost $60 per person. And knowing Shanice, it wasn't going to be a simple dinner. I confirmed that I would go, not because I wanted to, but because I still held that foolish hope that maybe at a family celebration I could reclaim some of the connection I felt I had lost with my son. The days leading up to the birthday were weird. Jamal didn't call me once, but Shanice called 3 times. "Alara, did you buy my gift yet?" The question caught me off guard. I hadn't even thought about it. "Not yet, Shanice. Is there anything specific you want?" "Well, I have a wish list at Neiman Marcus. I can send you the link. There are things at different prices, but obviously the ones I like best are between $200 and $300. $300 for a gift for my daughter-in-law, who didn't even treat me with respect, who barely spoke to me, who called me by my first name as if we were friends, when clearly we weren't. I'll see what I can do." "Perfect. And one more thing. There are going to be like 20 people at the dinner. Jamal and I are paying for our part, obviously. But it would be nice if you, as the mother-in-law, could cover something too. I don't know. Maybe the drinks or the dessert. What do you think?" She didn't ask if I could. She told me it would be nice, as if it were my obligation, as if I had the duty to finance her birthday party with 20 guests I didn't even know. "Shanice, I don't know if I can cover anything extra. It's been a tough month." "Oh, Ilara, it's my birthday. I only turned 30 once. Can't you really make an effort?" Her voice had that tone I had learned to recognize, half complaint, half manipulation, the tone she used to make me feel like the bad guy in the story. "I'll see what I can do." "I knew you would. You're the best mother-in-law in the world." She hung up before I could say anything else. I sat there with the phone in my hand, feeling the rage begin to grow inside me. A silent, contained, but very real rage. I spent the days before Shanice's birthday in a kind of haze. I knew I had to buy a gift. I knew I would probably end up paying for part of that dinner, and I knew that after all of it, I would still be invisible to them. I went to the department store Shanice had indicated. I walked in with my old purse, my worn shoes, feeling completely out of place among all the elegant people buying expensive things. I looked up Shanice's wish list on one of those digital kiosks. When I saw the prices, I felt the floor move beneath my feet. The cheapest item cost $180. It was a set of towels. Towels. The items she really liked, the ones she had marked as favorites, ranged from $300 up to a designer handbag, a French aroma diffuser, some Italian shoes. I stood in front of that screen for 10 minutes, fighting back tears but refusing to cry in the middle of that store. Finally, I chose the towel set, $180 that left me with almost nothing for the rest of the month. The cashier wrapped it in elegant paper with a gold bow. It looked pretty, expensive, as if I were someone who could afford that luxury. "It's a special gift for my daughter-in-law. It's her birthday." "How nice. I'm sure she'll really appreciate it." I smiled without replying because I knew she wouldn't. I knew Shanice would open it, look at it for 2 seconds and say something like, "Oh, these are nice, thanks," and never mention it again. On the day of the birthday, I dressed up as best I could. I put on my least old dress, the one I saved for special occasions. I put on a little makeup, carefully fixed my hair. I wanted to look presentable. I wanted Jamal to be proud of his mother. I arrived at the Red Velvet Bistro right at 8 o'clock. It was an impressive place, high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, impeccable white tablecloths, the kind of place where you feel poor just breathing the air. A hostess greeted me with a professional smile. "Do you have a reservation?" "I'm with Shanice's group, the birthday girl." "Right this way, please." She led me to the back of the restaurant, where a long table was already full of people. I recognized Jamal immediately. He was laughing with a group of men, a glass of wine in his hand. He was wearing a new shirt I hadn't seen before. He looked happy, relaxed. Shanice was at the other end, surrounded by elegant women in expensive dresses and sparkling jewelry. She was wearing a tight red dress that probably cost more than 2 months of my pension. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was styled in soft waves that fell over her shoulders. I stood by the table, waiting for someone to notice me. Several seconds passed, maybe a minute. No one saw me. Finally, Jamal looked up. "Oh, Mama, you made it. Sit down wherever you can find space." He didn't get up. He didn't come to greet me. He didn't introduce me to his friends. He just vaguely pointed towards the table and returned to his conversation. I found an empty chair near the end of the table, far from Jamal and far from Shanice. I sat between two young couples I didn't know. They were talking among themselves, laughing about something I didn't understand. "Hello," they said, barely looking at me, and continued their conversation. I stayed sitting there with my gift in my lap, feeling completely invisible. A waiter approached with the wine list. "Would you like to order something to drink?" "Water is fine, thank you." "Are you sure? We have an excellent wine selection." "Just water, please." I wasn't going to spend money on wine when I knew I'd likely have to contribute to paying this check. The dinner began. Appetizers they had ordered, but which appeared in front of me anyway, were brought out. Bacon-wrapped shrimp, mushroom bruschetta, small portions of smoked salmon. Everything looked delicious, but I could barely eat. My stomach was knotted. All around me, everyone was laughing and talking. They made toasts, told stories. I was in the middle of 20 people, and I felt more alone than in my empty house. At one point, Shanice stood up and asked for attention. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate with me. This year has been incredible. I have a wonderful husband, amazing friends, and a life I wouldn't trade for anything. Let's toast to life, to love, and to many more years of happiness." Everyone raised their glasses. I raised my glass of water. No one noticed. Jamal stood up too. "To my beautiful wife, the most special woman in the world. I love you." They kissed. Everyone applauded. I applauded too, though my hands felt heavy. The main course was brought out. I had ordered the cheapest item on the menu, a chicken dish that still cost $35. The others ordered cuts of steak that cost $60 or $70, lobster, scallops, dishes with French names I couldn't even pronounce. I ate slowly, trying to make my plate last, trying to have something to do with my hands while everyone else conversed among themselves. The woman next to me told her husband about a trip they were planning to Europe. The man on the other side talked about stock market investments. I had nothing to contribute to those conversations, nothing in common with those people. I didn't travel. I didn't invest. I barely survived month to month on my pension. After the main course came dessert, a tower of profiteroles with chocolate sauce for the whole table. And then the cake, a huge, 3-tiered cake decorated with edible gold flowers. The cake alone probably cost over $200. We sang Happy Birthday. Shanice blew out the candles. More applause, more toasts. Then came the moment for gifts. One by one, the guests gave her their boxes wrapped in elegant paper. She opened them with enthusiasm, showing off each gift: French perfume, a designer wallet, gold earrings, a spa certificate, each gift more expensive than the last. When my turn came, I extended my box with the gold bow. "Happy birthday, Shanice." "Thanks." Shanice quickly opened the gift. She looked at the towels. She didn't even take them completely out of the box. "Oh, these are nice. Thanks." And she put the box aside and moved on to the next gift. $180 dismissed in 2 seconds. I felt something hot rise in my throat. It wasn't tears. It was rage, a rage that had been accumulating for months and now threatened to explode. When she finished opening all the gifts, the waiter brought the check. He left it in the center of the table. No one touched it for a moment. Everyone continued conversing, taking the last sips from their glasses, finishing their coffee. Then Jamal picked it up. I saw his eyes widen slightly when he saw the total. He turned to say something to Shanice in a low voice. She nodded. Then he looked over to where I was sitting. "Mama, can you come here for a moment?" I stood up and walked toward them. My legs were shaking slightly. "Look, the bill came out a little higher than we thought. It's like $450 total. We're going to put in $300. Could you cover the rest, as your contribution to Shanice's birthday?" $150, almost a month's worth of food for me, more than double my light bill, half of my monthly pension. Jamal, I don't have that much cash with me. Do you have a credit card? Yes, but... Perfect. Use the card. We'll settle up later. We'll settle up later. That phrase meant I'm never going to pay you back. I don't know if I can. For the first time all night, Shanice looked directly at me. There was something cold in her eyes, something calculating. Alara, it's my birthday. Are you really going to ruin my night over money? Everyone at the table was starting to notice that something was happening. The conversations were dying down. People were looking at us. I'm not trying to ruin anything, it's just that it's a lot of money and Mama, please, don't make a scene. Jamal's voice sounded tense, embarrassed, as if I were the one doing something wrong. I looked at my son. I saw that look of pleading mixed with irritation in his eyes. I saw Shanice in her expensive red dress with her perfect makeup, waiting for me to solve their problem. I saw all those people looking at us, judging us, and something inside me finally gave way. I'm going to the restroom. I took my purse and walked toward the restrooms with a firm step. I heard Jamal's voice behind me. Mama, wait! But I didn't stop. I reached the hallway where the restrooms were. There was an emergency exit nearby, and next to that exit, a door that led to the parking lot. I didn't think twice. I pushed the door and stepped out into the parking lot. The cold night air hit my face. My hands trembled as I searched for my phone. I called a taxi. The operator told me it would arrive in 5 minutes. 5 minutes that felt like an eternity. I stood in the dark of the parking lot, hidden behind a car, waiting. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every second I expected to hear Jamal's voice calling me. I expected him to come out looking for me, but no one came out. The taxi arrived. I quickly got in and gave him my address. As we drove away from the restaurant, I looked back out the window. The lights of the Red Velvet Bistro shone in the distance. Inside, everyone was celebrating, eating, laughing. And I had just abandoned them with a check for $450 unpaid. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt something akin to freedom. I arrived home. I paid the taxi with the last bills I had in my wallet. I went in and locked the door. All the lights were off. The house was cold and silent. But instead of going to my room to cry, as I had done so many times before, I walked straight to my closet. I took out the 3 suitcases I had stored, put them on my bed, and started packing. It wasn't an emotional decision. It was practical, cold, calculated. I knew exactly what I was doing. As I folded my clothes and put them in the suitcases, my phone started ringing. It was Jamal. I didn't answer. He called again. I didn't answer. Then the texts started coming. Mama, where are you? Why did you leave like that? This is so embarrassing. Everyone is asking about you. You have to come back right now. I silenced the phone and kept packing. I took out my important documents, my passport, my bank papers, the house deeds. I put them in a brown folder that I placed on the living room coffee table. Then I went to my small safe, the one I had hidden in the back of the closet. Inside, I kept money I had been secretly saving for the past year. It wasn't much. Money I had saved little by little, $20 here, $30 there, depriving myself of things so I could have some security. This money was my escape, and tonight I was finally going to use it. I counted the bills, put them in my wallet, and closed the safe. I looked at the clock. It was 10:30 at night. I calculated that Jamal and Shanice would take at least 2 more hours at the restaurant. First, they'd have to resolve the check problem. They probably had to call friends, ask for loans on credit cards, maybe even wash dishes. The image made me smile for the first time in months. Then they would come looking for me, furious, humiliated, ready to yell at me, to make me feel guilty, to demand that I fix the mess. But this time, I would be ready. I finished packing. 3 suitcases with the essentials, clothes, shoes, some old photos from when Jamal was a child and still truly loved me, my medicines, my documents. I changed out of my party dress into something comfortable, cotton pants, a simple blouse, flat shoes. I took off my makeup, let down my hair. Then I sat in my favorite armchair with the suitcases by my side and the document folder on the table. I turned off all the lights except for the small lamp in the corner, and I waited. The phone kept ringing. More calls, more texts. Now Shanice was texting too. "Ilara, this is unforgivable. You humiliated us in front of everyone. How could you do this to us?" I read every message with a strange calm. They no longer affected me. It was as if I were reading messages directed at another person. The old Ilara, who let herself be manipulated. But that Ilara no longer existed. At 12:30, I heard a car park in front of my house. Quick, angry footsteps, the key in the lock. Jamal still had a copy of my keys. The door opened violently. "Mama, where are you?" Jamal's voice sounded agitated, angry. Shanice walked in behind him. I could hear her heels on the hardwood floor. They didn't turn on the light immediately. They were looking for me in the dark. I heard Jamal walk towards my room. "Mama, answer me!" Then his steps came back to the living room. His hand found the main light switch. He flipped it, and there they saw me, sitting calmly in my armchair with my suitcases to one side, my documents on the table, looking at them with a serenity they had never seen from me. Jamal froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out for several seconds. Then he yelled. They weren't words at first, just a cry of pure desperation, as if he had just seen a ghost. "What? What is this?" His voice trembled. He looked at the suitcases, the documents, my serene expression. Shanice stepped forward. Her makeup was smudged, mascara stains under her eyes. Her red dress now looked wrinkled. She had lost all her elegance. "Do you know the humiliation you put us through? Do you have any idea what we had to do to pay that bill?" I looked at her without saying anything. I just stared. "We had to borrow from my friends. My friends, Ilara. We looked like bums in front of everyone, and all because of you, because you decided to throw your tantrum and run off like a spoiled child." Jamal took a step toward me. "Mama, this is too much. I know we sometimes ask for help, and I know we don't always pay it back fast, but that doesn't give you the right to abandon us like that, to embarrass us. What is wrong with you? What is all this?" He pointed to the suitcases. Finally, I opened my mouth. My voice came out calm, cold, firm. "I'm leaving." "Leaving? Where to?" "Far away. To start over. To live the rest of my life with dignity." Jamal laughed, a nervous, incredulous laugh. "Dignity? Mama, don't be ridiculous. You have nowhere to go. You don't have money. What are you going to do, live on the street?" "I have money. I have savings you don't know about, and I have plans." "Plans? But you can't do anything on your own. You've always depended on us." That sentence hit me like a slap. You've always depended on us. When the reality was exactly the opposite. They were the ones who depended on me, on my money, on my availability, on my inability to say no. I have never depended on you, Jamal. You have depended on me, on my pension, on my savings, on my house, on my time. For 2 years, I've been your personal bank and your free maid, and never, not once, have you shown true appreciation." Shanice scoffed. "Oh, please, we asked for help like any normal family. It's not that big a deal." "It's not that big a deal. Over $10,000 in 2 years, Shanice. $10,000 that you never paid back, that came from my $800 a month pension. While you two were vacationing in the Bahamas, buying expensive clothes and moving into luxury apartments." Jamal ran his hands through his hair. He was starting to realize that this conversation wasn't going to end like other times, that he wouldn't be able to manipulate me with guilt. "Mama, if you needed the money back, you just had to tell us. There was no need for all this drama. I told you several times, and you always made me feel like the bad guy, like the selfish mother who charged her own son. Because that's how you look right now, like a spiteful person who keeps score of everything." "I'm not keeping score of the money, Jamal. I'm keeping score of the disrespect, of the humiliations, of the times you only needed me when it was convenient for you. I'm keeping score of every time you forgot to call me, of every canceled visit, of every time you made me feel invisible." The silence that followed was dense, heavy. Shanice was the first to break it. This is absurd. Ilara is being dramatic. Families help each other. Families respect each other, Shanice. They care for each other. They value each other. And you two don't respect me. You don't care for me. You don't value me. You just use me. Jamal shook his head. This is your fault. You spoiled us. You always said yes to everything. You never set boundaries, and now you complain that we took advantage, but you taught us we could do it. His words cut through me, because he was right. I had spoiled them. I had allowed this, but that didn't absolve them of their cruelty. You're right. I allowed this, and now I'm going to end it. Jamal walked closer to me. Now there was something different in his look. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was fear. Mama, stop! Stop saying nonsense. You're not going anywhere. Yes, I am. Tomorrow morning. And this house? Are you just going to abandon it? I picked up the document folder from the table, slowly opened it, took out some papers, and held them out to him. This house is no longer mine. Jamal took the papers with trembling hands. His eyes scanned the lines. I saw his face change color, from the red of rage to the white of shock. You sold the house. I sold it 3 weeks ago for $350,000. Shanice's voice cracked when she spoke. $350,000. But this house was Jamal's. It was his inheritance. This house was mine, Shanice. It was in my name. I paid for this house with my husband's life insurance money when he died. Jamal was 10 years old. This house kept a roof over my head for 38 years, and I decided what to do with it. And you decided to sell it to a stranger without even consulting us. Jamal let the papers drop onto the table. He slumped onto the sofa, his head in his hands. I can't believe it. I can't believe you did this. I paid all my debts, the medical bills I had pending. I sorted out my situation with the bank. I kept some aside to live on, and I donated the rest. You donated it? You donated the money that belonged to your son? I donated $50,000 to a shelter for elderly women who are victims of family abuse, because that's what I am, Jamal, a victim of abuse. Not with punches, not with screams, but with manipulation, with exploitation, with emotional abandonment disguised as filial love. Shanice laughed, a hysterical, incredulous laugh. Abuse? Are you listening to yourself? We ask you for help once in a while and now we're abusers? You're delusional. I stood up from the armchair. My legs no longer trembled. I felt firm, confident. Shanice, since you married my son 3 years ago, you have treated me like an employee. You have never called me Mom, always Ilara, as if we were friends, but you never treat me with the respect a friendship requires. You give me orders, you demand things of me, you only call me when you need something, and when I can't give you what you want, you make me feel like I'm a bad person. That's not true. No? When was the last time you asked me how I was? When was the last time you invited me to something without expecting me to pay? When was the last time you made me feel like I mattered to someone? The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was an uncomfortable, guilty silence. Jamal finally lifted his head. Mama, if you felt that way, you should have talked to us, not do all this behind our backs. I tried to talk many times, but every time I mentioned that I needed the money back, you made me feel selfish. Every time I said I couldn't help, you manipulated me with guilt. You didn't let me talk, Jamal. You shut me down over and over again. Shanice crossed her arms. Well, now what? You expect us to beg you to stay? To beg for your forgiveness? I expect nothing. I no longer expect anything from you. Tonight I came to say goodbye, to close this chapter, and to ask you to return the keys to my house. Jamal pulled the keychain from his pocket. He looked at the keys as if they were something precious. Then he threw them onto the table with rage. Take your damn keys. I picked them up and put them in my purse. The new owners take possession of the house on November 1st. You have 2 weeks to take out anything you may have left here. After that, it's no longer my responsibility. Where are you going to go? That is no longer your problem. Shanice took a step toward me. There was something threatening in her posture. You know this is a mistake, right? You're going to be alone. Completely alone. Without family, without anyone to take care of you when you get sick or when you can no longer take care of yourself. And then what are you going to do? I looked her straight in the eyes. I prefer to be alone and at peace than accompanied and miserable. And if the day comes when I can't take care of myself, there are institutions, there are places where seniors receive dignified care without having to pay with their dignity, places where they don't make you feel like a burden. Jamal jumped up from the sofa. You're selfish, a selfish person who only thinks about herself. We gave you years of our life. We included you in our celebrations. We made you feel like part of the family, and this is how you repay us? You made me feel like part of the family, Jamal? Tonight, I sat at that table surrounded by 20 people, and I felt more alone than ever. No one spoke to me, no one asked me anything. I was just the wallet that was supposed to show up at the end to pay the bill. That's not family, that's exploitation. Enough! I don't want to hear any more of your victim complaints. Jamal's voice was cold. Now all trace of pleading had disappeared. Only contempt remained. Then leave. Get out of my house. You have 2 weeks to collect your things. After that, I don't want to see you again. You don't want to see us again? Just like that? After everything we did for you? What exactly did you do for me, Shanice? Tell me one thing, one real thing you have done for me in the last 2 years. She didn't know how to respond. She stood there searching for something to say, but found nothing. Jamal took Shanice by the arm. Let's go. There's no point in talking to her. She's crazy. They walked toward the door, but before going out, Jamal turned one last time. You're going to regret this, Mama. You're going to miss us. You're going to need us. And when that happens, we won't be there. I know. And that's fine. The door closed with a loud bang that shook the walls. I heard the car start, the tires screech on the pavement, and then silence. I stood in the middle of my living room, breathing deeply. My heart was racing, but not from fear. It was pure adrenaline. For the first time in years, I had defended my dignity. I had said no. I had set boundaries. I sat back down in my armchair. I looked at the suitcases. I looked at the documents. Everything was ready. I barely slept that night, not from anxiety or regret, but from excitement, from the strange and marvelous feeling of having regained control of my own life. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up, took a long shower, dressed in comfortable clothes, took my suitcases, and called a taxi. Before leaving, I walked through the house one last time. I ran my hand over the walls. I remembered the happy years when my husband was alive, when Jamal was a sweet little boy who hugged me and told me I was the best mama in the world, when this house was full of laughter and true love. But those times no longer existed, and clinging to their memory was only hurting me. The taxi honked outside. I grabbed my suitcases, closed the door, and put the keys in the mailbox for the real estate agent who would arrive later. I got into the taxi. Where to, ma'am? To the bus terminal. During the ride, my phone rang. It was Jamal. I didn't answer. He called again. He sent texts. Mama, we need to talk. Please answer. Don't do this. I turned off the phone. At the terminal, I bought a ticket. A 6-hour trip north, toward the coastal town where I was born, where my cousin Aisha Monroe, the only person in my family who had kept in touch with me all these years without asking for anything in return, still lived. I had written to her the week before, told her everything, and she, without hesitation, had told me I could stay with her for as long as I needed, that she had a spare room, that it would be an honor to have me near. I boarded the bus, found my seat by the window, stored my luggage, and sat down. The bus pulled away. I watched the city recede through the window, the streets I had walked for years, the buildings I knew, the life I had built and was now leaving behind. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel sadness. I felt relief. The bus trip was long but quiet. I spent the first few hours looking out the window, watching the urban landscape slowly transform into open fields, then mountains, finally the coastal highway. The sea appeared on the horizon like a brilliant line that reminded me of my childhood, the summers I spent running on the beach, the simple days when happiness cost nothing. Next to me traveled a young woman with a baby. The child cried occasionally, and she rocked him with infinite patience. At one point, she looked at me apologetically. "I'm sorry if he's bothering you. He's cranky from the trip." "He doesn't bother me at all. Your baby is beautiful." She smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "Visiting family?" "Yes, my cousin. We haven't seen each other in person for years." "That's nice. Family is the most important thing, isn't it?" I nodded without saying anything else, because I was no longer sure I believed that phrase. Family is the most important thing. But what happens when family hurts you? When family uses you? Does it still remain the most important thing, or does it become a chain that drags you to the bottom? We arrived at the coastal terminal as the sun began to set. The air smelled different here, of salt, of the sea, of freedom. Aisha was waiting for me at the entrance. When I saw her, something inside me broke. I hadn't seen my cousin in almost 5 years. She lived her life here. I lived mine there. We wrote to each other occasionally, but there was always something that prevented visits, or rather, there was always someone. Jamal, his needs, his emergencies, his way of occupying all my time and money. "Elara!" Aisha opened her arms, and I let myself be embraced. For the first time in a long time, someone hugged me without expecting anything in return, just because they loved me, just because we cared about each other. I cried in her arms. I cried everything I hadn't cried in months. She didn't say anything. She just held me until I had no more tears left. "Let's go home. You must be exhausted." Her house was small but cozy. It was 3 blocks from the beach, in a quiet neighborhood where neighbors greeted each other and children played in the street without fear. She showed me the room that would be mine. It had a bed with clean sheets, a window overlooking the backyard, an old but functional dresser. "It's not much, but it's yours for as long as you need it." "It's perfect." And it was. It was simple, honest, real. There were no pretensions, no hidden expectations. That night, we ate dinner together in her small kitchen, homemade vegetable soup with freshly baked bread, simple food that tasted like home. "Do you want to tell me everything?" I told her. I told her every detail, every humiliation, every loan they never repaid, every ignored call, every moment I felt invisible. I told her about Shanice's birthday, about how I had abandoned the restaurant, about the scene at my house at 2 o'clock in the morning. Aisha listened without interrupting. When I finished, she took my hand across the table. "You did the right thing." "You think so?" "Sometimes I think I was too drastic, that I should have tried to talk to them one more time." "Elara, listen to me closely. You tried to talk many times, but they didn't want to listen. They wanted a provider, not a mother. And you deserve to be treated with respect and love, not as a resource to be exploited until it's depleted." Her words comforted me in a way I hadn't felt in years. "And what if I regret it? What if in a few months I miss Jamal and want to go back? Then you'll go back. But it will be your decision, made from a place of strength, not desperation. For now, you need to heal. You need to remember who you are beyond being Jamal's mother." That night, I slept soundly for the first time in months. No jumpiness, no anxiety, no waiting for the phone to ring with a new request, a new emergency, a new way to make me feel needed and disposable at the same time. The first few days at Aisha's house were about adjustment. It was hard to get used to not having responsibilities, to not waiting for a call, to not feeling that constant pressure in my chest. Aisha worked part-time at a local bookstore. She invited me to go with her one day. The bookstore was a charming place, full of old and new books, with a coffee shop in the corner where people sat to read and talk. The owner was a woman my age named Yvette Thompson. She had completely white hair, tied up in a messy bun, and wore reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. "So, you're the famous cousin, Elara. Aisha has told me about you." "I hope good things." "Only the truth. that you are brave, that you made a difficult decision, that you're starting over. I don't feel very brave. Bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what you must do, despite the fear. She offered me a coffee. We sat at a small table by the window. Yvette told me her story. She too had been married. She'd had 2 daughters. She had dedicated 30 years of her life to taking care of them, working to support them, sacrificing her dreams for theirs. And when her husband died and the daughters grew up, they abandoned her. They went to live in other cities. They called her once a month, if that. They visited on Christmas if they didn't have other plans. And how did you get over it? I didn't get over it. I accepted it. I accepted that I gave everything I could give, that I did everything I was supposed to do, and that their lack of gratitude says nothing about me. It says everything about them. Then I opened this bookstore. I found a new family in the books, in the customers who became friends, in this small community that welcomed me. I don't miss them every day, but I don't need them anymore, and that's the difference. Her words resonated with me for days. I started helping out at the bookstore. At first, just organizing books, cleaning shelves. Then Yvette taught me how to use the register, make coffee, and recommend books to customers based on their tastes. For the first time in years, I felt useful in a way that didn't hurt. I felt valued. Yvette paid me a small salary. It wasn't much, only $600 a month, but it was mine, earned with my effort, without guilt, without emotional debt. 3 weeks passed. Jamal hadn't called again after the first few days. I kept my phone off most of the time. I only turned it on for an hour at night to check for anything urgent. One night, when I turned it on, there were 17 new messages, all from Jamal. My heart started beating faster. I opened them with trembling hands. The first ones were furious. "You're selfish. I hope you're happy destroying your own family. Shanice is right. You're a bitter, resentful person." Then they changed tone. "Mama, I need to talk to you. Please call me. It's important." "Mama, we're having problems." And finally, the last text. "The bank is charging us sky-high interest on the loan we had to take out to pay for the dinner. We're behind on the payment for the new apartment. If we don't get money soon, we're going to lose the deposit. We need your help." I read the message 3 times. I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me, that old part that had spent decades being a self-sacrificing mother, wanted to call him, wanted to help, wanted to fix his problems. But another part of me, newer, stronger, knew the truth. They didn't miss me. They needed my money, and if I gave them even 1 cent, everything would start over. The cycle of exploitation, the dynamic of abuse disguised as filial love. I deleted the messages. I turned the phone off again. Aisha saw me from the kitchen. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." And it was true. For the first time in a long time, I was truly fine. Days turned into weeks. October ended. November arrived with a fresher air and the smell of dry leaves. The house that had been mine now had new owners. Jamal and Shanice must have moved their things out. That part of my life was completely closed. At the bookstore, I started meeting people. There was a book club that met every Thursday afternoon. Women my age, some older, some younger, all with stories, all with scars, all looking for connection and understanding. One of them, Julianne, invited me to walk on the beach one morning. She was 70 years old, widowed, and had lived alone for a decade. "Do you know the secret to being happy at our age, Alara?" "No. What is it?" "To stop expecting others to fill our voids, to learn to be complete by ourselves, and to build a chosen family instead of clinging to the biological family that hurts us." Chosen family. Yes, the people we choose to have in our lives because they lift us up, they respect us, they value us. Not because we share blood, but because we share genuine affection. We walked in silence for a while, listening to the waves break on the shore. The sun shone on the water. There were children building sandcastles, couples walking hand in hand. Life, simple, beautiful life that didn't need grand gestures or money to be meaningful. "Do you think I'll ever be able to forgive my son?" "I don't know. But what I do know is that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting him hurt you again. You can forgive him and still maintain distance. You can wish him well and still protect yourself from his toxicity. December arrived with a gentle cold that was barely noticeable in the coastal town. The bookstore was decorated with Christmas lights, and Yvette organized a special event for the end of the year, an open poetry reading where anyone could share something. I decided to participate. I read a poem I had written during my sleepless nights, a poem about rebirth, about learning to be free. When I finished, the small audience applauded. Aisha had tears in her eyes. Julianne hugged me tightly. "You're stronger than you think." Her words stayed with me for days. Christmas was approaching. It was the first one I would spend without Jamal since he was born. 35 years of Christmases together, 35 years of traditions, and now nothing. I expected to feel sadness. I expected the weight of loneliness to crush me during the holidays, but it didn't happen. Aisha, Yvette, Julianne, and other women from the book club organized a Christmas dinner together. Each person brought something. I prepared my special chicken soup, the one Jamal used to love when he was a child. But this time I made it for myself, for my new chosen family. That night, sitting at the table, surrounded by women who valued me, who listened to me, who were genuinely interested in how I was doing, I realized something. This was the family I had always deserved. Not perfect, not connected by blood, but real, honest, full of mutual respect. After dinner, when everyone had left, I helped Aisha wash the dishes. "Do you miss your old life?" Not as much as I thought I would. I missed the Jamal that was, the boy who was sweet and loving, but that Jamal no longer exists. The man he became isn't someone who is good for me. It's sad when you realize your children grow up and become strangers. But it's also liberating, because you finally understand that it's not your responsibility to carry their decisions, their mistakes, their lives. Exactly. That night, before going to sleep, I turned on my phone for the first time in weeks. There were new messages, many, all from Jamal. The first ones were from mid-December. "Mama, I know you're mad, but it's been a long time now. Don't you think it's time to talk? Shanice says you're being childish. I think you're just hurting. We can fix this. We'd like you to come spend Christmas with us. We can start over." Then came the more recent ones, from just 2 days ago. "Mama, things are really hard. We lost the apartment. We couldn't make the payment. We had to move back in with Shanice's parents. It's humiliating. Shanice's parents are charging us rent. Can you believe it? They charge their own daughter to stay in their house. I need you to lend me some money just to get out of this problem. I swear this time I'll pay you back." The last message was from this morning. "I know where you are. Aisha posted a photo on social media, and I saw you in the background. You're in the town where she lives. I'm driving up there. We need to talk face to face." My heart started racing. He was coming here. Jamal was coming to find me. I called Aisha immediately. She came into my room in her pajamas, her hair messy. "What happened?" "Jamal knows where I am. He says he's coming here." Aisha sat on my bed. "And what do you want to do?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to see him, wants to believe that maybe he's changed, that maybe he's genuinely sorry. And the other part? The other part knows he's only coming because he needs me, because he has problems, and he thinks I can solve them, as always." "Then you already know what to do." "But he's my son, Aisha." "I know, and he will always be your son. But that doesn't mean you have to let him in every time he knocks on the door. You can love him from a distance. You can wish him well without sacrificing your peace." I spent the night awake, thinking, remembering, trying to prepare my heart for what was coming. Jamal arrived 2 days later. It was December 27th, a cloudy day with the smell of rain. I was at the bookstore when Aisha called me. "He's here at my house asking for you. How does he look?" "Tired, gaunt. He says he needs to talk to you urgently." "I'm coming over." The walk from the bookstore to Aisha's house was the longest of my life. Every step weighed on me. Every breath was difficult. When I arrived, Jamal was sitting in the living room. He stood up as soon as he saw me. Aisha was right. He looked terrible. He had lost weight. He had deep circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled. "Mama." His voice broke as he said the word. "Jamal." We stood there, looking at each other, two strangers who were once everything to one another. "Can we talk in private?" I looked at Aisha. She nodded. "I'll be in the kitchen if you need me." Jamal and I went out to the backyard. We sat on the plastic chairs under the lemon tree. "Mama, I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I'm sorry I used you. I'm sorry I didn't value you. You were right about everything. I was a terrible son." The words sounded sincere, but I had learned to listen beyond the words, to look for the truth behind the apologies. "Why did you come, Jamal?" "Because I miss you. Because I want to fix our relationship. Only for that." He fell silent. His eyes filled with tears. "Because everything fell apart, Mama. We lost the apartment. Shanice and I are fighting all the time. Her parents treat us like a burden. I have no one else. You're my only family." There it was, the truth. He didn't come because he missed me. He came because he needed me. "Jamal, do you know how many messages you sent me in those 3 months?" "I don't know. A lot, I guess." 47 messages. "Do you know how many of those messages were just to ask me how I was doing? Without asking for anything, without needing anything?" He fell silent. "None, Jamal. Not one. Every message was about you. Your problems, your needs, your money. You never asked if I was okay, if I was happy, if I needed anything. I'm sorry." "Are you truly sorry, or are you just sorry you lost your resource? Because I think it's the latter." "It's not like that, Mama. I love you. I've always loved you." Love isn't just words, Jamal. Love is action. It's respect. It's reciprocity. For 2 years, I gave you everything I had. Money, time, energy, and I never received anything in return except more demands. I know, and I want to change. Give me a chance to prove it to you. How? By lending you more money? By letting you keep using me until I have nothing left? No, I got a new job, better paying. I'll be able to pay you back everything I owe you." "Everything, Jamal? You owe me over $10,000. I know, but little by little I'll pay it back, I swear. I don't want your money anymore. I want my peace, and you don't give me peace. You give me anxiety. You give me sadness. You make me feel like I'm only worth what I can give you." "That's not true." "No? Then tell me, when was the last time you came to see me just because you wanted to be with me? When was the last time you invited me out and paid yourself? When was the last time you worried about my health, my dreams, my happiness?" He didn't know how to answer. "You can't, can you? Because it never happened. I was always the one giving, and you were always the one receiving." Tears ran down his face now. "So what do you want me to do? Beg for forgiveness on my knees? Suffer? Grovel? I don't want any of that. I just want you to leave me in peace, to let me be happy without guilt, to understand that I have the right to live my life without being tied to your constant needs. But you're my mother, and you are my son. But that doesn't make me your property. It doesn't make me your solution to every problem. You're an adult. It's time for you to act like one." He got up from the chair. He walked a few steps. He ran his hands through his hair. When he turned around, there was something different in his gaze. The mask of vulnerability had dropped. Now only rage remained. "So that's it? You abandoned me, just like you abandoned the dinner, just like you abandoned the house, just like you abandoned Shanice and me?" "I didn't abandon you. You discarded me long before that. I just stopped being available to be used." "You know what? You're right. I didn't come here to fix anything. I came because I needed money, because I thought I could still convince you. But I see you've become selfish and bitter." His words didn't hurt me as they used to. It was as if I had developed a protective layer, an invisible armor made of self-respect and clarity. If being selfish means taking care of myself, then yes, I'm selfish. If being bitter means not letting myself be exploited anymore, then yes, I'm bitter and I'm at peace with that. Jamal shook his head, incredulous. I don't recognize you. You're not the mother I raised. Exactly. I'm no longer the mother you raised to serve you. Now I'm the woman I should have always been. A woman with dignity, with boundaries, with self-love. He turned to leave, but before reaching the garden door, he stopped. And if I ever need you, if something serious happens to me, you won't be there either? The question hit me in the chest because there was the eternal dilemma of every mother. Where does love end, and where does self-destruction begin? If something truly serious happens to you, something that threatens your life or your safety, I want you to know that you will always be my son. But your money problems are not life or death emergencies. They are consequences of your decisions, and those are no longer my responsibility. We looked at each other one last time. I saw in his eyes that he finally understood, that there was no turning back, that the mother he knew no longer existed. Goodbye, Mama. Goodbye, Jamal. I watched him walk away, his figure growing smaller and smaller until he disappeared. And then I let out the cry I had been holding back. I cried for the son I lost, for the relationship that was never what I dreamed, for the years I gave without receiving. I cried for everything. Aisha came out to the garden and hugged me without saying anything. She just held me while I emptied all the pain I carried inside. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel like it, because it hurts. Love always hurts when you have to let go, but the pain of letting go is less than the pain of clinging to something that destroys you. Days passed, then weeks. January arrived with a new year full of possibilities. Jamal didn't look for me again. He didn't call, he didn't write. And although part of me still hoped for some message, a larger part learned to live with his absence. In February, Yvette offered me a full-time job at the bookstore. I accepted immediately. With my $600 monthly salary plus my pension, I could live comfortably. It wasn't a life of luxury, but it was a dignified life, a life that was mine. I moved into a small apartment 2 blocks from the beach, a tiny space, but enough, with a kitchen where I prepared my meals, a living room where I read in the evenings, a bed where I slept soundly without anxiety. The book club became my favorite routine. Every Thursday we met to discuss books, but we ended up talking about life, our experiences, our scars. We all had similar stories: ungrateful children, families that had used us, relationships that had drained us, but we also had hope. We had the second chance to build a life that filled us instead of emptying us. In March, Julianne organized a trip to the nearby mountains, a weekend retreat for our group. We were 8 women, all over 60, all with stories of survival. During that weekend, sitting around a bonfire under the stars, we shared our deepest truths, our regrets, our dreams, our fears. When it was my turn to speak, I said something I had been holding in my heart. I spent 35 years feeling like I wasn't enough, that if I gave more, if I sacrificed more, if I loved more, my son would finally see me, value me, love me the way I loved him. But the truth is, I was never the one who wasn't enough. He was the one who wasn't willing to see me. All the women nodded. Some cried, because we had all lived some version of that story. Yvette spoke next. The hardest thing I've had to learn is that you can't force anyone to value you, not even your own children. All you can do is value yourself and walk away from those who don't. That night, I slept under the stars, wrapped in a blanket, surrounded by women who understood me, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt completely free. April arrived with wildflowers and longer days. One afternoon, while I was organizing books in the bookstore, the bell above the door rang. I looked up and froze. It was Jamal, but he hadn't come alone. He was holding the hand of a little girl, perhaps 3 years old, with curly hair and my late husband's eyes. Mama. His voice sounded different, softer, humbler. Jamal. We stood there, meters of distance between us that felt like miles. This is Zoe, your granddaughter. My heart stopped. Granddaughter? Since when? Shanice was pregnant when everything happened. We didn't tell you. Why? Well, because we thought you would come back, that it was all just a temporary tantrum. Zoe was born in January. I looked at the girl. She watched me with curiosity, clinging to her father's leg. Hello, Zoe. She hid her face behind Jamal's leg. We didn't come to ask for anything. I just wanted you to meet her. I thought you had the right to know you have a granddaughter. Yvette came out of the back room, assessing the situation immediately. Elara, would you like to take a break? Yes, please. We went out to the small patio behind the bookstore. Jamal picked up Zoe and sat her on a bench. She played with a rag doll. How is Shanice? She's fine. We're okay. We moved to a smaller but manageable apartment. I'm working 2 jobs. She went back to working from home. It's not easy, but we're making it work. I'm glad. Mama, I didn't come to ask for money. I came to tell you that you were right about everything. I was a terrible son. I used you. I disrespected you. I took you for granted. And when you finally left, when I finally lost your safety net, I had to face my own mistakes, my own irresponsibilities. Jamal, please. Let me finish. When Zoe was born, when I held her in my arms for the first time, I understood something. I understood unconditional love. I understood what you felt for me, and I understood that I had abused that love in the worst possible way. Tears ran down his face. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to go back to how things were. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, that I finally understand, and that I hope someday, when Zoe grows up, I can be the kind of father to her that you deserved me to be to you. I looked at my granddaughter, so small, so innocent, so oblivious to all the pain that existed between the adults around her. Can I hold her? Jamal nodded. He picked up Zoe and passed her to me. The girl looked at me with those big, curious eyes. Hello, little one. I'm your Grandma Elara. Gamma. Yes, Grandma. She smiled, and something inside me melted. But it wasn't the same weakness as before. It was something different. It was love, yes, but love with boundaries, love with protection. Jamal, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your apology, but you need to understand something. I am no longer the same woman you knew. I am no longer going to sacrifice my peace to be part of your life. I understand. If you want Zoe to know me, if you want her to have a relationship with her grandmother, it has to be on my terms. With respect, with clear boundaries, without expectations that I will solve your problems or finance your life. I agree. I don't want any of that. I want my daughter to have what I had as a child, a loving grandmother. Because even though I was a terrible son, you were an incredible mother, and I know that now. We sat in silence for a moment. Zoe played with my necklace. Jamal watched us with a mixture of sadness and hope. We can start over, Mama. Not like before, but as something new, something healthier. We can try, but it's going to take time, and it's going to require you to show with actions, not just words, that you have truly changed. I will, I promise you. Don't promise me, just do it. Jamal left an hour later. He gave me his new number. He gave me the address of his apartment. He asked me to think about visiting them someday when I was ready. That night, sitting on my small balcony looking at the sea, I thought about everything that had happened. The woman I was, the woman I became, the pain I had to go through to find my own voice. Would I ever have a relationship with Jamal again? I didn't know, but if I did, it would be different. It would be on my terms, with my boundaries, with my dignity intact. Because I finally understood something it had taken me 68 years to learn. Self-love is not selfishness. Protecting yourself is not cruelty. And sometimes, the bravest way to love is to let go. Today, 6 months after that night at the restaurant, I live in my small apartment by the sea. I work in the bookstore I love. I have friends who value me. I have a routine that fulfills me. I have peace. Jamal calls me every 2 weeks. Short, respectful conversations. He sends me photos of Zoe. He invited me to his birthday, and I went, but only for 2 hours. I set boundaries, and he respected them. I don't know if we will ever be close again, but I no longer need us to be happy. I no longer need his validation to feel worthy, because I finally learned that the most important love you can give is the love you give yourself, and that it is never, ever too late to start over. Sometimes, on quiet afternoons, I think about the woman I was, the one who endured everything, who swallowed her pride, who believed that loving meant destroying herself for others. And I thank her. I thank her for enduring all that she endured, because without that pain, I never would have found the strength to change. But I am also glad to have let her go, to have found the courage to become who I am now, a free, dignified, complete woman. And if there is one thing I would like to tell anyone going through what I went through, it is this. It is never too late to choose yourself. It is never too late to set boundaries. It is never too late to say enough. Because at the end of the day, the only person you will live your entire life with is yourself. And you deserve to treat yourself with the same love and respect you have given to others. I gave everything. I was treated like trash. But that day, I stopped swallowing my pride. And that's why I broke all ties, because I was forced to protect myself. And I regret nothing. You know, for most of my life, I thought love meant giving everything you have, even if it breaks you. But now I see love also means respecting yourself enough to walk away when others only take and never give back. We teach people how to treat us, and sometimes the hardest lesson is realizing it's never too late to start again. Life doesn't end when someone walks out. It begins when you finally close the door on what was hurting you. And today, I'm living proof that peace after chaos is possible. If you agree with me and liked my story, show it by giving this video a like. Let's see how many of us feel the same. I'm curious, what city are you listening from, and what time is it there? Write it in the comments. If you'd like to support my journey, you can send me a small donation. Thank you for listening and sharing your precious time with me. For more life stories like this one, check out the other videos on my channel and subscribe. I've added 2 new stories on the screen that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Click one and start listening now. Love to you all.